Are you having the problem of getting stuck in a loop and unable to finish your track or even get your music flowing? A common writer's block, as it might be known. In today's video, I'm going to go over 5 things that I use on a regular basis, especially when I've got to write music to a deadline and get it finished for set projects. And hopefully you can apply some of them to yourself to help you finish more of your music. You see, when you have a really clear goal and a defined purpose for what you're doing, it's a lot easier to measure the progress in the achievement of where you're trying to get to. Now, the goal doesn't have to be, I want this track to be finished and go and win a Grammy. It's far simpler than that to help you keep taking steps forward. An arbitrary goal that I see people set a lot is, I'm going to release a track every week or every month or on the 1st or every 90 days. This just kind of gives you a window to write a bit of music and put it out. The goal is there, but you're still going to get stuck in that writer's block and you're probably not going to be happy with what you're putting out. You need to break it down and look at how to set good goals a little bit more consistently. Here's an example. Key to setting a good goal is to make it specific, achievable, and easily definable. Very simply, within the next hour, I'm going to have the drum idea laid out for a new dubstep track. Well, that helps you set your tempo. It's a short period of time, it's well defined, and it's measurable in what you want to achieve within that period of time. We've broken it down to a very small micro step of 1 hour of project time. If you do those 3 things and set smaller goals and systematic breakdowns, you'll find you move a lot further in the production of what you're trying to do. When we're setting goals for the overall vision, well, the overall vision might be to have this track finished for a set date. Don't have that as the overall goal though. Break it down backwards. So let's say we want to release a track 90 days from now. What can we do each day and potentially each hour to get that to the final result? And you'll find there are a lot of other steps that you can integrate in to really help you motivate yourself and produce that one piece of music in the time frame that you want to have it done. So on that discussion of setting goals, well, none of that really works if we don't take number 2 into account, and that's being overly disorganized and wasteful with your time. You absolutely need to experiment and dive deep into finding what the sound is going to be for your track and really helping it evolve and get there. But if you're disorganized with that and you don't align the organization with the goal of something to achieve, you'll end up stuck in a loop or EQing the same snare all day. So let's look at 3 ways we can be better organized when we're working on our music production to then achieve those goals. A huge thing I do is I have consistent naming and coloring and organization in my sessions, meaning DLY is always going to be a delay on a bus, RVB is always going to be a reverb, VX RVB is always my vocal reverb. Those are always colored yellow and they're always on the right hand side of my mixer. I know where they are, I know what they're going to be named, and at a glance they're always there. This saves time because I'm never faffing around looking for a different channel name that's a random color to send to my vocals bus and things like that. And when you've broken down your goals into hour segments to get something finished, these little things add up time and you become a lot more efficient with a bit of practice. Another great organizational option are folders. I organize into year, month, track name, and then I have a 3-tier color system. You can have a little dot next to a folder to let you know what's going on with it. At a glance, I can see these green, red, and orange, and I know where those projects are and what stage they are at. And the third thing I use is note-taking. I will just give you a quick glance into the Notes app of mine on my iPhone and the huge volume of information that is always written down in there that keeps me incredibly organized. I also use it when I'm listening through to tracks to jot down notes on things I might want to change on the mix afterwards. So those are 3 things that can help you narrow down that time and work more efficiently when you're achieving those smaller goals that we've already looked at. Well, this is something for if you're at a slightly different stage, or if, like myself, you're working on paid and commissioned projects regularly. and that's not seeking feedback. I know, I appreciate it can be a really difficult one, especially if you don't have a musical circle around you. This is where you lean on places like SoundCloud, Reddit, and Discord, where you can get feedback from other artists on how your track sounds, how it's feeling, and the things that you are unsure about. In the case of working on commissioned projects, I love to send a rough project over and be like, this is the direction I'm going in. How is this for you? Do you have any feedback on the direction we should go in? Those ideas and feedbacks will often spark brand new creative ideas for you and how you can develop that project and push it off into a new space. But I completely understand it can be hard to get feedback from people. If you haven't got a paid project going where someone has a financial incentive to make sure you're doing the right kind of work thereafter, you can very simply offer your feedback in exchange for somebody else's, or some kind of other value exchange. You could even have a listen to somebody's music, give them the feedback thereafter, and then very simply request that they have a listen to your track and see if they could do the same for you. And that's if you're unfortunate enough not to have musical friends in the musical circle around you in any way. Thankfully, online gives us that option nowadays to have a community wherever we are in the world. So number 4 was a massive one for me for the longest time, and it's overthinking it, being stuck up here for far too long. You're going over the same thing over and over again. You're EQing that same snare and you play it back on multiple systems and it doesn't sound right, or you're not happy with it. And then you scrap that whole thing and you bring new drums in, or you record something else, and you just go over and over and over. This is where the goal setting helps you get out of that overthinking and being paralyzed through perfectionism over and over and over. So we benefit from setting limits to our decision-making process. Some other ways we can do this are limit the tools you use on a particular track. For example, when you are, say, mixing your drums, if you're constantly getting stuck on the snare, limit yourself to 2 plugins. Or if you're going to be sneaky and put something like ozone on your snare, limit yourself to 2 modules in that kind of plugin. Limit yourself down like that and you'll find, well, I've come as far as I can using these tools. My goal was to get this done within the last hour. It's taken me 45 minutes to get to there. Let's move on to the next thing and be happy with how that is now. But in my actual mixed stage, you'll see I often only have 2 to 3, sometimes no plugins at all on the channels, because I've got them where I want to be with just those tools and dialed it in. And the 5th thing to not do if you want to keep consistently finishing your own music, don't compare yourself to everybody else. Especially don't fall into the trap of going on Spotify and looking at the most popular artists. You're not doing the same thing as them. You're very likely in a different niche and doing completely different things. Set yourself limitations to just get the job done. When you're out of experimentation time that you've set as a specific goal, you will finish a lot more of your projects this way and you will be happier with them. Thank you very much for listening. I hope it's been helpful for you and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Take care.